Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about the One Piece card game. Today I'm continuing my Set 6 review with an analysis of Reiju. Now you may notice if you've been watching the previous videos in this series that I sort of been doing all the colours and stuff with this, but this is basically just a purple review because there isn't a single blue card that is specifically designed for this deck, which is very funny. Something else I want to say is if you are interested in playing this leader and want some more in-depth analysis, deck lists, all that sort of stuff, check out my Patreon link in the description for an in-depth guide to Reiju. I promise you it is worth it. It should be live as you are seeing this. Please do check it out. It's only $5 a month and I think the content on there is great and you help support the channel, of course. So let's talk about Reiju. This is a blue-purple leader. This is the fourth blurple leader, I think, third or fourth. This is on your turn, once per turn. When one of your Don cards on the field is returned to the Don deck, draw a card. So this is a pretty good effect, but obviously it really does heavily rely on how much Don minusing you actually have going on, and obviously they therefore designed a support in mind, and there is quite a lot. So let's go through and have a look. So I'm going to use Ichiji here as a sort of almost all the support is the same sort of style, right? So here this is a 4/4, so this is a small, relatively small body, 1k counter, with an activate main to Don -1, trash the character. If your leader's German 66 type, play up to 1 cost 7 of the same name from your hand or trash. So they all have this effect on the baby versions, and then the big versions are the ones with the actual good effects. So I'm just going to be like, okay, worth playing if the big version's worth playing. If the big version isn't worth playing, then not worth playing, right? So here's the big version. 7/7, on play, if you have equal to or less Don on your field than your opponent, which you will. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -2k for the turn, and then this character gains Rush, so this is obviously extremely good. Being able to get a 7k Rusher out for 4 Don is nuts. On top of that, like, you're going to be drawing a card when you through the Reiju effect, and you are increasing your ability to just like deal with your opponent's board by being able to swing into stuff, so yeah, this card is all kinds of good. Okay, Judge. So this is another card that's worth bearing in mind to understand like what the deck wants to do. So I thought this card was like kind of bait when I first read it, and I thought it was like a noob bait, but no, it's actually pretty good. So it's an 8/8. On play, Don -1, you may trash 2 cards from your hand, play up to 4 German 66 type characters with 4,000 power or less from your trash with different names, i.e. play 1 of each of the Germans. Activate main once per turn, Don -1, rest up to 1 of your opponent's Don cards. So that's a bonus effect that is almost never going to come up, but they've been printing a lot of these cards that basically are like, in case Whitebeard ever becomes really good. Again, like, let's give them a counter, so worth saying that like this is the sort of thing that they've been printing. How good this card is entirely depends on how good the support is, so let's continue to look through that. Here we've got Vinsmoke Sora. This is a 2k counter with an on-play to discard a card from your hand and salvage a 4k or lower Vinsmoke family character card from your trash if you have less Don. You're mainly using this as a searchable 2k. Okay, Nichiji. So this is, sorry, Niji. This is a 3/3, 1k counter. Activate main Don -1, and you may trash this character, blah, blah, blah. You play a cost 5. Okay, so the cost 5 Niji is a 5/6, it's always a good start. 1k counter, on play, if you have equal to or less Don on your field than your opponent, choose one of the following. Either KO one of your opponent's characters that cost 2 or less, or bounce up to one of your opponent's characters that cost 4 or less. So I think this is probably the worst one, but it's definitely not bad. I don't think anyone would say like a 5/6 that bounces something is bad. And again, it is going to be like... when you are... So this is one that you can potentially actually play from your hand. It's got a counter, it's easy to get rid of. You're going back into them from your trash anyway. So yeah, this card is pretty good. Okay, then we've got Yonji, the usual effect. This one's a 2 cost. And the Yonji big one is a 4/5 with a 1k counter that says this gains 1k power if you have less Don, and it has a blocker. So it's a 4/6 blocker. It's a strictly worse Borsalino, but Borsalino is kind of insanely good, so I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. This card is obviously pretty good. And then finally, we have got Reiju, the artist was cooking something. This is a 2/2, which goes into the best one of the Vinsmokes, which is on play if you have equal to or less Don on your field than your opponent, and you have 5 cards or less in your hand, draw 2. So always remember, declare Reiju first, then leader effect, if that is going to mess up your order. And also consider that if you have exactly 5 cards in hand, you're going to be at 8 after you've resolved a Reiju, which is crazy. So yeah, this card's obviously busted. Okay, then we got a vanilla. That should not be here. Whoops. Okay, then we got Cosette. So this is a 1/0, 1k counter. If your leader is German 66 and the board has 2 or more Don less than your opponent, this character gains blocker. So just a cheap blocker if you so desire. But I mean, you know, you're going to play Queen or something instead. Then we have got some events here. We've got Black Bug. This is a 4-cost. If the number of Don on your Don field is equal to or less than your opponent's Don, place up to one of your opponent's 5-cost or less characters on the bottom of its owner's deck. So this is a restricted version of 3000 Worlds with a trigger to bot deck of 4. So in some ways, it's just better. And I think this is a very, very powerful removal tool. And definitely, I think, quite slept on. I think this is really, really, really good. Then we've got Germa 66, so this is a top 5 searcher for Germa 66 cards, and the trigger draws a card, so obviously this is a staple. And then, one of the reasons this deck functions as well as it does, the main reason arguably, is this stage here, the Germa Kingdom. So this is a 1-cost stage, which says, activate main, you may discard 1 card, rest the stage, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 card with Germa in its types and add it to your hand, and then send the remaining to the cards to the bottom of the deck in any order. So, why is this card so good when, honestly, every other instance of something like this has been pretty terrible? The reason is because what they have done with the transformation mechanic, right? Let me find one here. Is because it goes in from trash or from hand. If you discard the big versions, you're not negging, because you're just going to go into them from your drop zone anyway. You're essentially plussing. This is essentially a repeatable +1. And when you understand it in that context, you understand why this card is kind of nutty, and why there is so much potential for this deck. So, how does this deck actually play? Generally speaking, you are just abusing the fact that you are able to get ridiculous value by doing these Don minuses. You don't necessarily have to even really play much or any ramp, but it is worth being fairly sensible as to when you actually start using your Don minuses, because you want to be able to abuse cards like Judge and get huge amounts of value out of them. But yeah, this deck is able to build a board from nothing. It's insanely efficient. In many ways though, it does feel it feels like red purple lore, but with less removal and a more advantage, right? So it is a similar playstyle, but I think it's very, very good. I think this is absolutely a contender, at least on the same level as Yamato. I think, this is definitely, up there with that deck. And I think it's pretty damn good. I think there's a lot of experimentation that can be done. And I think if you don't know what you're doing against this deck, you absolutely will get blown out. Remember, this deck still has access to all of Purple's bullshit tools, and more importantly, all of Blue's bullshit tools. So just bear that in mind. In terms of old stuff you want to pick up, probably want some Queens from Starter Deck 4. Card's kind of really good. But I don't think there's anything that is a mega staple off the top of my head that you have to pick up. But of course, if you want to see sample deck lists and in-depth discussions, you should check out my Patreon, linked in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please do like it, subscribe to the channel for more One Piece card game content. I hope you guys have enjoyed this new way of doing the series. We're almost through it now for OP06, so I hope to see you guys in the next one as we round out the main leaders in Moria. Cheers.